hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our talk today, which is going to be about how to make your games fun. So when you're designing games, some of you I saw in chat are talking about you're already making your own games or want to make your own games. And hi to everyone in chat that's chatting. Nice to have you. So when you're making games, a lot of people think, oh, I have to learn how to program or I have to learn how to make art. And these are important parts of game design. But what you really want to do is you want to make a game that's actually fun. And it can be really hard at first to figure out, like, why is my game not fun? Why is my game not working the way I want it to? And so we're going to talk today about ways that you can actually make your game way, way, way more fun. So I'm going to introduce my fellow game designers up on stage. And by the way, so my name is Kelly, and I am a professional game designer in real life. And we have some other game designers here as well. So we have Paul, aka Game Geek. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for introducing me, Kelly. Hi, everybody. My name's Paul. I have been making games professionally for 20 years. Yep, I'm pretty old. But I've made all kinds of games from Xbox console games to PC games, and currently I work on mobile games. So yeah, super excited to be here, and I can't wait to talk about how to think about your games and their core loops and all that kind of cool stuff we're going to talk about. And
all right,
that's me.
Oh yeah. And also have Mo up here, aka Oka. Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Sure, it's great to be here. Welcome everyone to the talk today. I'm Mo, and I lead game design relations at Machinations. We are the leading game design software tool to help you think about your game and visualize those core loops. I've been working in games for a few years. I'm a game designer first and foremost. I've worked on free-to-play mobile, and I've also worked on indie PC and console. So yeah, it's great to be here, and hopefully you guys have a great evening with us.
All right, so we're going to start out thinking about this idea that is called core loops. And so this is a really important part of game design. And we have a little bit of a, presentation. So I keep, this will probably happen, I keep cleaning the floor by mistake. I'll try not to do that if I disappear. I promise I'll come back. All right, so I'm going to start out with, I think Game Geek here is going to introduce this idea of core loop. So what is a core loop? What do we do with a core loop? Why do we care about this? Let's hear about it.
Great, thanks, Kelly. So a core loop is just a fancy term for thinking about the important steps in your game, right? And so when we're thinking about, whether it's a simple game or a real complicated game, as a designer, we spend a lot of times thinking about the steps that you take or the stages that you have to take in order to play the game. And the reason we call it a core loop is because we like to break the game down into the steps. And if the game is, most games, not every game, but most of the games that are really good form a loop where you do the same sort of set of activities over and over again to make a forward progress. And I've if I can get the screen sharing here to work, I got a couple of diagrams I brought with me to illustrate what I'm talking about. So I'm going to try to do this screen sharing stuff here. Slideshow from the beginning. Can everybody see that? Somebody let me know if you can see that, because I don't have Rec Room on the screen now. Is this showing up?
You're good.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, this is a basic game loop. And I've drawn 3 big circles that tell you the basic areas. These are some fancy game design words, but they just mean action, which is the thing that you do in the video game. Then you tend to get a reward for doing that thing. And then progression, that's like making forward progress in the game, like leveling up or going to the next level or anything like that. So let's apply. So this is literally how we think about it when I'm making any video game, really. So here's an example of using it to applying it to like a really simple arcade game like Space Invaders or something, where the action is that you shoot aliens, and because you shoot aliens, you score points, and if you score enough points, you eliminate all the aliens, but that's the same thing as scoring points. You go to the next level, and the loop continues. And so, thinking of your game as a constant loop of these activities really helps you understand the steps that players go through to play your game. And when we work on making games fun, we actually talk to ourselves to make sure that the game actually makes a loop like this, and that each of these areas are really fun. So here's another. So that's a really simple example. Here's a game that you guys might know. This is a more complicated diagram. So this is one for a very popular game that I'm sure everybody here knows about. This is the loop that has multiple ways to go, but we also have marked on the loop what items you get and what items you spend. And so this is called a full loop diagram. And you'll notice that unlike previous picture, there's actually two ways that you can go. Because if you catch Pokemon, you can of course after you catch, you train them, but you can just keep going back and forth between training and catching them, or you can train them and then battle them before you catch them, right? And so players might take multiple routes. It still makes a loop, but there's actually two loops here, right? The important thing is that there are no little spikes going off the side of our diagram. And in each of these steps of the loop, you can see that, like a catch, that's going to cost me a Pokeball, but I'm going to get a Pokemon, the expenditure of the Pokeball. And so when you look at a diagram like this, you want to make sure that there's a place where Pokeballs get taken away. And if they get taken away, you're going to need a place where they show up. And so whether it's a game like Candy Crush or Pokemon or really any game, if you're giving the players rewards or items, you want to be able to keep track of where the players get them and where they get used up. And this helps you balance those things out. Here's another game you might have played, right? And we're back to multiple paths. I'm sure a lot of you have played this game. And here's the simple diagram again. Collecting resources, build and train units, collect resources, build and train units, or you can collect resources in battle. Notice how you never go from battle to build and train, though. It always goes through collect resources. So there's another popular game. You can see these diagrams don't have to be very complicated to help understand. But again, if you draw a picture of your game like this and then put marks on it for all the things that a player can get at those places, you can end up with this is the same game. This is still Clash of Clans, but this is with every single thing that you can do mapped out on it, right? So you can take this picture here, and this helps you understand basic idea of what you're supposed to do in the game. But a professional game designer might draw something as complicated as this to make sure that we understand all of the things that a player A can do and B can spend and use in the game. Now you notice really quickly, look at this this is a really complicated diagram. There's actually a lot of loops in here, right? It's all loops, but you can see that there are I count 5 different loops that connect to each other. So I don't think you necessarily have to do something like this, but I did want to show you how complicated it can get if you map out every single thing in a game. Anyway, that's what a core loop is, and that is how professional game designers and amateur game designers think about their game flows, so that we A, make sure there are no parts of the game that aren't connected, and B, understand where all the items come from and go to. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Mo, who's going to show you some ways that you can help diagram that.
Before we do that, why don't we check? Why don't we ask our audience, if there's any questions or anything at this point? Do you mind, Mo, if we see someone's asking for more examples? So, and you all in the audience too can think about what your favorite games and think about what the core loop might be. So, for example, somebody mentioned Fortnite in the audience. So, what would the core loop of Fortnite be? By typing in chat, if anybody can think of what that core loop would be, that'd be a really good starting off point. Loops only stand in games with stories, or loops have games that are more free mode and free roam. Yeah, loops can happen in all different kinds of games. So those were some great examples from
Sure.
our friend Paul, but there's a bunch of other sort of things you can think about. Oh, was it a joke about Fortnite? Okay, there was a Fortnite question. All right, so
But if you think,
we'll Fortnite go to race. But yeah, Minecraft definitely be an example, right? So the core loop of Minecraft might be something like you go and you collect ore, or you collect resources, and then you craft items, and then once you craft those items, you can go get bigger and better items, right? And slay bigger monsters, get better stuff, and so that would be like a loop of something like Minecraft is. You keep fighting, you keep getting better stuff. So I think that Minecraft is a really great example of that. And there's a bunch of different stuff, right? Maybe you're just like building your farm in Minecraft. There's a whole loop for farming as well. And I see there's Game Geek has worked on a billion games over the years. So just to clarify a little bit, like what those some of those game loops might be, and then we can get over to Mo. Sorry to interrupt, Mo. I just want to make sure that we clarify a little bit for the audience, just in case. But please take away.
hey, Mo.
Hey, Mo. Uh-oh.
We're having some Mo issues.
Hey,
there's a really good. While we're waiting for Mo to shake that out, there's a really great question in core loop in chat. What do you think Rec Room's core loop is?
Tell us in chat. What is Rec Room's core loop? That's a great thing to try and think about.
Well, Rec Room depends on what you're doing in Rec Room, right? Like Rec Room is a game that can contain many other games, right? So you could think of it as engage in the activities, collect prizes, collect the rewards. Is that the right word I'm using? The awards, and then go do more activities. But each of the games, the activities themselves have their own core loops, right? And some of these quests and activities can be really complicated, or they can be really simple. And I think each one has its own core loop as well.
So I saw a couple of things in the audience. So somebody said have fun and look cool is a core loop, which actually isn't too far off, right? Looking cool, custom your avatar, have this little unicorn horn on, and the people up on stage also have fun accessories. So that's a big part of the game, right? And why you might play. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see.
I think Egg the Duck got it right. Play game, get tokens, get skins, play again in style. Like it. Yep, that's pretty good. And of course, there's a second loop.
Granted.
And there's a second loop of if you go off and create stuff, of course.
I just get back on forum.
Sorry, everybody. We're having a little technical problem. How do you find a broken loop? Well, there's a couple of things that can show. If you try to draw one of those diagrams like I drew, and you have a step in your circle that doesn't lead to another circle, you have a step that doesn't lead to another step. Like say maybe you have an activity that doesn't produce something, or doesn't have a reward, or doesn't make you look cool, right? You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. That would break your core loop. Like each step in the loop has to lead to the next step in the loop.
He has permission right now. I could try revoking and then giving it back again. Okay. Okay. Sorry, what was that?
Have I ever messed up a loop? Yeah, I mess up loop all the time.
Let's see.
You try one loop design.
Could you message on Discord?
And if it doesn't work, you try a different loop. Oh yeah, we're totally perfect all the time. No, man, making games is hard. What
Okay,
games
so
have I made?
oh, okay.
I've worked on a bunch of games, but we're gonna talk about core loops right now, not about me. Should we do, Kelly?
So
How
one
do
of
we?
the
How do?
I'm trying to yeah let's see. Don't mind us. We're totally professionals up here. But I heard part of whoops. Why do I keep trying to clip? I really want to clip through the floor and okay. So I think somebody was asking about like, did you talk about goals and stuff, Paul? Has that come up?
No,
Hello?
no. Talk about
Can
goals.
you hear me?
Yeah. So sometimes some of you that have like tried making games before, or have tried making worlds in Rec Room, you might think, you know, this isn't actually as fun as I thought it was be. You might think like, oh, I had this really great idea and it's not fun to play. And part of that might be because you aren't, you don't have goals in your game, or you don't have solid things that the player is trying to do, right? So if you go back to Minecraft, you know, the player wants to go and explore, the player wants to collect resources, the player wants to fight monsters that they might find out there. So those are really tangible things that the player can do, or things that are really obvious. And without those, it might be really unclear you know, what the fun part of the game is. So you want to emphasize those up front. What is the open rock simulator? I know Rock Simulator. Paul, do you know Rock Simulator?
I don't. You probably simulate a rock.
I'm like Googling
Anything
it
like
now.
Goat Simulator? Is Rock Simulator like Goat Simulator? No. Yes. Less physics, but there's probably less physics in Rock Simulator, right? Yeah. See, so idle clicker games have really small core loops, right?
Yeah.
Yo, what's the loop for the Goat Sim? I think most
Goat
of the
Sim.
open.
Well,
What do you
what's
think
the
the
loop
goat-
of what's the loop of being
Goat Simulator?
goat? Chaos. I want to learn how to goat better so you can do more chaos. I would say. Oh, I play it anyway.
How we? All right, Dark Souls or RPs, you know, those are the ones that have the strongest core loops. Those are ones where um, they look a lot like that first diagram I threw up there, right? You have an action, you have combat. The combat generates loot. You spend loot to make your character more powerful, and you take your more powerful character and you fight more monsters, and you go back around again. So it's fight, loot, progress, fight, loot, progress. And you just keep fight, looting, and progressing until you're tired of the game. It goes on forever.
If anything, I can just.
So I just looked up Rock Simulator.
Bed for
It
my-
looks like, oh, we got Mo back. Woohoo!
All right, good news, everyone. We solved the technical problems.
Can you guys hear
Yeah.
me? Is this working? Perfect.
Yeah. Tech dance. Woohoo!
So I'm gonna, take over here, and I'm gonna be showing you guys how to sort of diagram your core loops and give you guys ideas using, the software tool Machinations, how you can sort of visualize the flow of your game and of your core loops. So I just wanted to first of all thank you guys, Paul and Kelly, for holding the stage while I was sorting out my mic issues, and for sort of leading the intro to the core loops and getting people up to speed. So I'm sort of going to go a bit in depth. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So this is essentially a game design the diagram, and it sort of shows you, what a core loop is. This is very simple. I want to sort of set the scene, give you guys like a narrative to go on. So, we're in a post-apocalyptic world, right? You're sort of like a leader of an underground vault. Think of something like Fallout, right? And, your vault's getting bigger. You need to do more things. People need more space for storage. You need an armory. As raiders and bandits come to attack at night, you need the medical center to cure the sick, and you need the lounge, because people get bored. So, to sort of build your shelter or your vault, what you need to do is sort of get raw materials, right? So you send a party out into the sort of like the world, the post-apocalyptic world outside of the vault, and there's a 1% chance that party will die from the radiation. So, here's sort of that link, from, playing, there's a 1% chance. Once, a resource gets sent from the source, this pool, it's going to be game over. And here it tells you, if there's one resource that enters this pool, trigger game over, right? So, what's going to happen once I play this to simulate it, every second it's going to send between 1 and 10 values from the source to the raw materials. And these are the raw materials that you're sort of getting. And then you're going to convert them, and then you're going to build the base. So, after you build the base, you're going to need bigger upgrade costs. So you're going to go, to 60, 150, 300, 500, 900. This is sort of like the array that holds the values for upgrading your base. And we're going to go into the specifics of each upgrade. Of course, you can take this diagram and delve even deeper with it, but this is just to show, the core loop in a very abstract way of, I get raw materials, I upgrade my base, the next upgrade costs more, so I need more raw materials to upgrade the base. So, I'm going to play it, and you can see, they're collecting raw materials. Once we hit 60, we're going to upgrade the first base. So there we go. Now we have base level 1, and now the cost has increased to 150, which was our second one in the array. So hopefully this guy doesn't get unlucky and die, and we can continue all the way to 150. And I'm going to stop it there so it doesn't drag on, but this is just to give you an indicator of, see, between 1 and 10 every time. So it's a different value. We're rolling a D10, and there we go, 150. And so we got the second upgrade. And it's sort of going to keep on going, until that 1% kicks in and it's game over. So this is sort of a very simple example of a base building core loop. Now, what I want to do is sort of give you guys another example, maybe something, a bit more complex. So, we're gonna kick off with this diagram. Let me explain this. So, again, there's a 10% chance that the player is going to fight a monster that defeats him. And once sort of the player is defeated, it's going to trigger the game over. So this is going to basically send a resource. Once that resource hits here, it's going to trigger this source. And this source basically means that every second we're killing a new monster, right? And again, we're going to roll a d10, right? So you get between 1 to 10 experience, depending on the level of the monster. And once you gain a certain amount of experience, you level up. Now, what happens when you level up is that the cost for leveling up is going to increase. So you're going to need more experience, the same with like the base upgrades. It's the same idea. You're going to need more experience to level up. But instead of an array, we've used sort of like an exponential curve. So that, each time you level up, you need exponentially more experience to level up. And what the goal of this sort of game is, very simple game, is to get as much gold as possible. And so when you kill a monster, you sort of get 3 loots from the monster. And you have a 57% chance that it's going to be an iron bar and a 43% chance it's going to be gold dust. And you need 3 iron bars and 2 gold dusts to craft a gilded sword. And then you sell the gilded sword and you get 50 gold from the merchant. Right? Now every time you level up, you're going to essentially defeat harder monsters. And this sort of increases the chance that you're gonna get the iron bar and the gold dust. So let's sort of give that a play. There we go. We're gaining XP. We're crafting the gilded sword. We've sold our first one for 50 gold. We're on level 3. We now need 13 experience to level up. Now we need 16, 19, 23. We're on 350 gold. And the player has ran into a monster they couldn't overpower, and they've been defeated. And so that is essentially like a very simple loop, that has RPG mechanics of, experience, leveling up, looting monsters, crafting items, and selling those items to merchants. So these were just simple examples I wanted to show you using the software tool Machinations, and I hope you found it informative. And yeah, happy to take any questions.
All right, so I see some questions from the audience. One of them was, when making a core loop, should you start small and branch out, or do you want to start with kind of tackling everything at once? What do you guys think? What's your approach to starting off a core loop in a game? I have an opinion, but I want to hear what you two say first.
All right, so I'll, my sort of thought process about it is to just be very abstract, nail down sort of like where the fun is, and then, start expanding from there, start building on that abstraction, going deeper, finding, the subsystems, and also mapping out the interactions that occur just to make sure, that you're not losing that core loop and it's not becoming nebulous. You want to keep the core loop and you want to build outwardly from there, but you don't want to lose that, and I think that's very important.
Start simple.
Yeah, I say start simple too. So if you think of something like Mario, what can Mario do? He can jump. That's the main action he has. He can walk and forth and he can jump. So if you start with something like that, right, and Mario is a really well-designed game, from there you can think about, well, what kind of power-ups can I get when I jump and hit things, right? What can I do when I jump and interact with enemies? I can kill them, I can jump over them. And starting with something like that, you think of like verb, right? So if you think of something like, I can shoot, or I can jump, or I can run. And then from there, think about what could be fun about that. That's a really great start for your core loops. And that was a great question. So what are games that have no loop that do well? Games that have no loop. I'm not sure if that's possible. I don't know. What do you guys think? The loops make a game. This is a deep question here.
Well, that's pretty deep. I think all games have a loop at some level. Like there are games like Firewatch or games that would be just. I mean, to not have a loop would be to watch a movie, right, where you'd have no input. So maybe walking simulators are the closest thing to no loop, but you still have inputs, right? So I think you have to have some kind of loop for there to be a game. It could be as simple as shoot, get points, get points. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, 100%. Multiple loops. Yeah, so I think something like Minecraft, right, is like a really good example where you might be, okay, I'm gonna go into the mines and get ore and resources and get better armor. Oh, but at the same time, I'm trying to like make a farm. I'm trying to grow a bunch of wheat. That's a different loop. That's the farm loop. And then maybe like, oh, I want to also like raise some sheep and raise some cows, and then you're doing like your farming and animal loop. At the same time, you're doing the loop of going into dungeons, and loops can actually play off of each other in a way where, like my cow gave me leather, so now I can make some better armor, and now I can go into the mines and get something that will help me with my farm. So a lot of times, fun gameplay comes from having a few different loops that you're running at the same time. So definitely multiple loops are something you can do.
And I think it's also good to look at loops in a sort of like a framework of trying to nest, as much loops under the core one that makes sense. So if we look at, the example that was shared earlier with, Clash of Clans, you collect resources, ultimately battle. But in the middle, there's a nested loop where you sort of build and train, and that allows you to get more resources. And, the end goal is still to battle. So, the building and the training is sort of nested under, the core loop. And it sort of makes sense in that framing.
Yeah, I would say definitely to that. There's combat loop. There's, some games might have social kind of elements. Those can be loops as well. There's all different kinds of loops that can include in your game. Most important loop. What do you guys think? That's another kind of deep question.
Progression.
Yeah, I think for me, the most important part of loop is that it's actually a loop. So sometimes, especially when you're new to making games, you make activities that don't loop. They're like, for example, if you just, how would I put this? Like if you had a shooting game that didn't create a score, or if you had an activity that you just do because it seems fun, but it doesn't create a score or doesn't make you look better. There should be a reward, either more activity or more leveling up for everything. So when you make your loops, if you see that an activity doesn't lead to another activity, that is the most important thing. Activities always have to lead to another activity. Everything you do should lead to something else.
Yeah,
they
I
sure
would say
do.
absolutely. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You want to go? Oh, okay. Yeah, they are watch some story, make a decision. Watch some story, make a decision. That's the loop in a Telltale game.
Yeah, and to Paul's point about, you finish a loop when you get more of something, right? You get experience points, you get a cooler armor, you get more money. Something like a Telltale game or like this range, you get more plot, right? That's the reward of doing the core loop of the plot decisions, is you get more of the plot. And, a lot of times in those games, it gets harder to make decisions, the stakes get higher, the story gets more intense. So yeah, it's sort of third, which is a different category of loop.
Well, I like playing games, so games like Diablo, has a great core loop because you have lots of different ways you can upgrade. Like, think about the Diablo core loop. The Diablo core loop is kill monsters, get loot, spin the loot, and then you can craft the loot, or you can trade the loot, or you can sell the loot. No matter what you do to the loot, it still wraps back around to killing more monsters, so it's always a loop. But Diablo and a lot of role-playing games, but Diablo especially, is just a great loot machine, right? Kill monsters, get loot, and then do lots of interesting things with the loot, so that you can kill more monsters. So, I love Diablo.
Yeah, I'm a big RPG fan too. We kind of similar taste in that way. So I love anything that you're getting stronger, you're getting more stuff. I love Pokemon too. We talked about Pokemon's loop of or the multiple loop that Paul talked about in Pokemon are really fun. Pokemon's one of my favorite games ever. And I've been playing a lot of the Pokemon Unite recently. That's a whole other kind of loop. So yeah, I don't know. I'm always pro Pokemon in all situations.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the games that I found had a really Clash Royale. I found it to be really fun in the sense that, you go in super quick, you have a real time battle. There's the strategic element there, but there's sort of the meta game layered on top of that, where you sort of then go back to the drawing board, upgrade your deck, move your units accordingly. And then what you realize is that the strategies at every tier is different. So, you go, it's all about, opening more chests, getting more cards, upgrading your units, finding the strategy you want to go with in the next tier, and then going into the game, losing a lot until you sort of figure out where the meta lies in sort of that bracket, and then adjusting, and eventually, you go on a win streak and you progress to the next tier. And so there's a really high level loop there, and then there's obviously, the loop that's, nested below that. But I found that very fascinating.
I need my hand more than I need my left hand. Yes, I'm button and I need to. Ow.
So this is a really cool question. So side quests, are they different loops or small loops within the main loop? So I personally believe that side quests, they're part of the main loop. The core loop sort of like encompasses everything within the game, and the different types of quests are sort of nested under that. So to give us sort of like a brief example, in the early days of World of Warcraft, you had kill quests, escort quests, and fetch quests, and each one of these has their own nested loop under sort of like the main loop.
Wait, no, the batteries are fine. It's just my controller's playing now.
Okay. Can everyone out there hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Excellent. If you guys can wrap up whenever you want, or if you have
Cool.
more things you want to talk about.
Nope.
We have a
I got it.
question in the audience here. You want to come up and ask your
Cool.
question? You got to come close to the stage.
Cool.
Got it. I think I got it.
Oh yeah, no, that's a different kind of talk, man.
Got
Thanks though.
Got it. Yes. Oh, thank God.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to our talk. Hope you guys have a good time making your games, and hope they're really fun.
Yeah, have fun,
Can't wait to see
everyone.
what you do.